Heisman Trophy frontrunner Graham Harrell is coming to town. Old friend Chris Paul is coming to town. And All-American Stephon Curry just left town. Hello and welcome to the Press Row, our weekly roundtable discussion of Oklahoma sports. From the Dodge Sports Desk, I'm Mike Sherman, sports editor of the Oklahoman. With me, our columnist John Rohde, who will talk about the huge college basketball week, which includes so far the games of the year in both men and women. Columnist Jenny Carlson, who will talk about the torn between two lovers showdown Friday night between the Thunder and the Hornets. And columnist Barry Trammell, who will talk about the college football game that has the whole nation buzzing. Barry, let's start with you. The Sooners played Nebraska in 2000, number 1 versus number 2 in Norman. Huge game. Is this the second biggest home game for OU in the Stoops era?
I would go past that. I think it's the second biggest OU home game in maybe 25 years, at least since the Switzer era. Nothing in the 90s compares, of course, and nothing else in Stoops, really, because Stoops' biggest games are played in the Cotton Bowl every year, so they don't get Texas at Owen Field. I think you go back to some of the OU-Nebraska games of the Switzer era to find a game that matches it other than that 2000 OU-Nebraska.
Are we going all the way back to Keith Jackson's tight end of rounds?
85, maybe so, maybe so.
John, what's the appeal to you for this game?
What's not the appeal? You have two great quarterbacks. You have Heisman candidates. You have unsung running backs from Tech, and you have questionable running backs for OU that are coming along. I'm curious who's going to stop somebody. I'm curious, is this game going to be decided with a big hit, or is it going to be decided with a last-second touchdown like Tech and Texas?
Jenny, is this one of those games we've been talking about offensive shootouts and all the ingredients are there for another 54 to 50 game or something like that? Does somebody step up and play some defense on Saturday?
I have to think so. I mean, I think that's going to be the ultimate deciding point in this game. Who that is, I don't know. I like OU's chances, though, if we're talking about defenses. I know Tech's improved, but the thing about OU and their defense that always strikes me is no matter what a team does, if it's really one-sided in its offense, OU's defense usually has a way to counteract that. They tackle really well in space, which is key against Tech. And I just think when you know that Tech's going to throw it as much as they're going to throw it, I think OU's defense will handle that. Maybe not, I mean, they're not going to shut them out by any stretch, but they're going to handle it. So I think OU and their defense a little bit more capable of handling this than Tech's defense will be.
By the time we get to Saturday morning, we will have gone through virtually every angle possible about this. But Barry, is there one sort of unmined idea or deciding factor that's worth discussing?
Well, I think Jenny referred to it a little bit, which is this. OU in the last month has really gotten a lot better at running the ball. And you can say the competition hasn't been great, but frankly, before that, they weren't running the ball great against some so-so teams. I think the Sooner running game is really getting in gear. The Tech running game is always a factor. It's always underrated, but it's never a focal point for Mike Leach. If OU can run the ball the way they've run the ball the last 4 weeks, with attitude, with power, with both Chris Brown and DeMarco Murray getting big gains, I think they'll win this game.
John, how about it? What are we missing about this game?
I'm just wondering who's going to win it. And is it going to be a Harrell? Is it going to be a Bradford? Is it going to be DeMarco Murray? Is it going to be, it might be Clapp. It might be the fullback. It might be a guy on a safety route, or just one of those bubble screens or something that might decide. It might be somebody, not a Crabtree or anybody, but it might be a Clapp.
Well, and I think in big games like this, the stars oftentimes will come to play, and you'll see Graham Harrell and Sam Bradford and the guys that you expect to have great games, and it might be an unexpected guy that you're not really planning to have be a big deal. That then becomes that guy. Maybe it's a Manny Johnson, or maybe it's you'd say Jermaine Gresham, but he's not really unsung. So I could really see somebody you're not even expecting to be a big role in this game.
I know who won't win it. Either kicker.
Yeah.
No kickers are going to win this game. I'd go for 2 every time I scored if I was either team.
Guys, the defensive ends are going to get exhausted. I mean, it is going to be like running the New York Marathon, trying to rush these quarterbacks, and especially for the OU players, OU defensive ends trying to rush from these wide splits that Tech presents. and they're running out of defensive ends. Could that possibly be a tipping point for this game?
Well, how frequently do you rush them? Do you go with a three-man front? Do you have them stay at home? Do you do those things? They've only been sacked 5 times all year, and the only team that's been sacked fewer is Air Force, and all they do is run the ball. So it's an amazing passing attack.
Okay, everyone on our staff picked OU to win. Are we discounting at all what Tech did to the Sooners in Lubbock last year?
I am for 2 reasons. One, it was in Lubbock. This game's not in Lubbock. And Sam Bradford was playing middle linebacker early in the game last year, and I don't think he's going to play middle linebacker Saturday night.
It was Friday for him last year. The problem was the game was on a Saturday. He didn't know where he was. I discount last year, sure.
How about it, Jenny?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a whole different game. As long as Sam Bradford doesn't get knocked out, I think they're an entirely different team with him on the field as opposed to a backup. No matter who that backup is, it doesn't get snaps heading into that game. Tech's better than they were last year. I think this is the best Tech team that maybe ever. I mean, has Tech ever had a team this good at all? I can't imagine that they have.
Spike Dykes thinks it's his best Tech team ever, and he would know about Tech.
Sure
yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
They were 10-1, I think, in '76. Had a nice team, but they weren't playing a Big 12 schedule.
Yeah, I mean, this has to be the best Tech team that they've ever had. So, yeah, I mean, sure, Sam Bradford makes OU better. Tech is better. But, I just think that this is a game that OU can win, especially on its home turf.
Okay, Jenny, let's talk the Thunder, the Hornets, and the morality play that's going to unfold Friday night at the Ford Center. The team Oklahoma City wants, the Hornets, play the team that Oklahoma City has, the Thunder. What will the reception be like for Chris Paul and company?
I think it's going to be really a warm reception. It's going to be really interesting to see who cheers for who and how loudly. I could see the reception for the Hornets being only slightly less than the reception for the Thunder. I think that people are going to pull for the Thunder. It's sort of like the difference between cheering for your nephew and cheering for your son. I mean, the Thunder are now Oklahoma City, so there's a bond there. But I don't think we can get away from the fact that the Hornets are the team that everybody loved for 2 years. So I think there's going to be a big-time reception for that team.
Well, the relationship metaphors have been slightly different than nephew and son.
Okay.
I've heard, and one of the more interesting ones is it's your significant other or spouse and your old flame coming to town, looking good, looking successful, and then, let's talk about old times here. Yeah. John, and you wrote about this today in the Oklahoman and on News OK. How does the Thunder try to manage this?
This is bad timing. This is bad timing for the Thunder. They're 1-11, and they don't know anything right now. But it's going to be like OU Texas in basketball, Barry. Somebody's going to be happy on every bucket. It could be split right down the middle. I really don't know what direction it's going to go tonight.
I think the cheers for the Thunder will be louder, but by the end of the night there will be more cheers for the Hornets because there's going to be a lot more to cheer about. Yeah. Although, let me say this. If you rank the NBA's most disappointing teams, I don't know where these two teams rank, but I know they're pretty close to each other. I mean, the Hornets are 5-5 for crying out loud. Yeah. They should be better than, and they've played 6 home games. They should be better than that. Thunder, after 12 games, they shouldn't be 4-8. Now, maybe 3-9, but so neither one of these teams is playing the way it wants to.
What's refreshing is that some things have really changed and some haven't. Our old friend Byron Scott, he's still using his post-game press conferences to call out people. He's got a running disagreement with Mike James, and Mike James just says, I'm just going to play my game. He's the backup point guard. And Byron Scott more or less says, no, you're going to play our game. So you remember some of those post-game press conferences? He called J.R. Smith a liar. He just called him out. The question is it time to call somebody in the Thunder out? So far, PJ has talked about the collective we. We are all under the bus. But they've lost 9 straight. How's this outfit holding up, guys?
It's not PJ. This isn't on PJ. Pick a coach, any coach. Right now, Bob Knight's available. Lost Pete Newell. John Wooden's alive. Pick anybody who could coach these guys better than, they might be 2-10 or 3-9, but they are what they are. They is what they is. They're the Thunder. It's singular.
Thank you. Thanks for noticing, John. What about them, Jenny? How are they holding up?
Well, I mean, I think that there's got to be some distension. I mean, we heard that they had this players-only meeting after a road game over the weekend. There's frustration, surely, and there should be. I mean, this cannot be any fun for any of these guys. But they have had some injuries. They are young. I mean, they is what they is, and they know it too. I mean, these guys know that they are young, inexperienced, and they don't have superstars just yet. So I think they recognize also that, hey, they're kind of doing what they can do, and right now that's not adding up to a whole lot of wins.
When you see Coutinho Mobley go the length of the court 3 times for a layup and not go down, you know 2 things. One, Nick Collison's not on the court, he's on the bench. Because he would have taken him out, and he's done that. The second thing you know is they've lost some fight. But Barry, the longer this season goes on, the more of this kind of thing happens. Does the focus go from off the court to more during timeouts and the fan entertainment experience?
I think it does. If you're a fan, I've since talking to some fans, some frustration and some discouragement. You've got to have an attitude change. This season was never about winning 35 games or even 30 games or taking the Hornets or the Celtics or the Lakers to the wire at the Ford Center and maybe having a chance to win. This season was always just about player development and the future. So if you go to the Ford Center expecting to see quality play and good chance of a victory, you need an attitude adjustment. You need to go, enjoy the experience, check out some individual players, see how they're progressing. Jeff Green, Russell Westbrook, in my opinion, have been very nice surprises. I think they're both coming along very well. So I think the future is relatively bright, but you just got to get that scoreboard out of your head.
The mascot, how bad is it? How can they put a rush on the mascot?
It was a fantastic marketing move. It's going to be perfect timing. It comes along in January or February. That's exactly when we're all going to need a bolt of energy for this franchise.
Is it going to be like the unveiling of the new San Diego chicken? Remember?
We're all waiting for the mascot now?
By the way, did anybody see the Gods of Thunder on Monday night up
Yes.
in okay.
Can we keep those guys up in
By the
Wild
way,
City?
goofy, yes, but I'm glad to see some super fans
I like
making
it.
themselves known.
I like it.
like it.
That's it. They remind me of that outfit that used to run around with the UCLA softball team. What was the name of that?
The Four Horsemen.
The Four Horsemen, yeah, the Four Gods of Thunder.
Yeah. Yes.
That was quite an outfit. Hey, now let's go on to some local basketball that is actually succeeding in a big way. Down in Norman this week, John, you saw what had to be, the game of the year of the very young college basketball season. Blake Griffin, Stephon Curry, OU Davidson. People are still buzzing about it. What was it like to be there?
Oh, it was awesome. Here's the thing that I love about Blake Griffin. If things aren't going his way, he didn't score his first bucket till like 7.5-minute mark. Didn't take a shot before then. He goes, it's all right, I'll wait. He doesn't force anything. Blake Griffin is mature physically. We already knew that, but mentally he's fantastic. And then Stephen Curry, here's the deal. They list him at 6'3". He's maybe 6'1". He's a $180. And I don't care who's on him. He gets separation. He steps back. He had an off night. And they were still finished within, and he had 44. That's more points than anybody's ever scored against OU ever. And it was a bad night for him.
Our man Darnell Mayberry went to the game with another staff member, Brandon Chapman, and at halftime he turned to Brandon and said, I'm disappointed. I need some more.
Darnell's an idiot.
And Brandon said, he's got 17 points.
Yeah.
Are we going to be talking about this years from now, Barry, about the day that Stephen Curry came to town?
Back in the early 80s, Baylor came to town before the Big 12 days. They came to Lloyd Noble Center. And you didn't know anything about the game. You thought it was just a dead game. They had some little guy that just lit up, scored 30-something points. Vinnie Johnson was his name. And you see it at Stillwater on occasion. The day, who was it? Was it Donnie Boyce? Scored 45, I think, on the Cowboys one day. Sometimes you go to the arena and you see something special, and I think people did Tuesday night at Lloyd Noble.
Also, what about the draft stock of these two guys? Couldn't go anywhere but up.
Yeah, I think
What's
both.
higher than one?
I know. I think both guys are pretty. If they're not top 5 guys, both of them, I'd be shocked. The only question I have is something you bring up, John, which is Curry's size. He's very slight. You see Aaron Brooks play on Monday night when the Rockets were in town, and I'm thinking these are the same guys in my head, and Aaron Brooks looks small on an NBA team. I think Stephen Curry is going to look equally small on an NBA team, but man, he can shoot it. There is no doubt about it. He was attempting shots out of situations that I didn't even think that was advised, and he hit them. He's a great shooter. I think both these guys are going to be high draft picks.
And from the Blake Griffin standpoint, what has he added to his game, John?
Patience.
Really.
And he's on an even keel. He's a great teammate. You get that about him. He smiles and celebrates other people's. When Willie Warren shows up and Crocker shows up and Taylor Griffin showed up the other, but it sounds stupid. Yeah, if you have all 5 guys playing good, you're going to be a good team. That's what OU was in spurts the other night.
Now we got the OU women with a big game lurking with number 4 North Carolina, provided both teams win the NIT game on
North
Friday.
Carolina's there.
Okay, so what do you see as being the big difference for OU women between this year and last year? And I hear a lot of people saying that this is finally going to be the year. True?
Well, Sherry's already said that they're farther along this year than they were all of last year. She ended with it was a tough year on her and her players last year, but she's smiling all the way right now. She's all grins right now.
It's interesting that the person that they're really stocking this team on is Whitney Hand, who's a true freshman. And it seems like to me that it's not foolish by any stretch, because if she's good and she can pull it off, hey, more power to her. But you look at it and you say, man, putting your season and the big hopes, the big dreams. I mean, we're talking national championship, Final Four type dreams in the hands of a freshman. Isn't that a little bit risky? But it happens in men's basketball all the time, that you've got, Carmelo Anthony or whomever as youngsters, as 18 and 19-year-old guys leading their teams to championships. Is it a lot to say, they needed that shooter that could bring that attitude to maybe help out with the inside game, and Whitney Hand has got to be that person? Maybe, but if she can pull it off, this is going to be a tough team to beat. 2
years ago we said this, what the Sooners really needed was to be more athletic. They got run off the court by Mississippi, and so then Aisha Stevenson comes along, Danielle Robinson comes along, and they're more athletic. But now, last year, they couldn't shoot. Now comes Whitney Hand, and really what you're seeing with this team is just what NBA teams need. They need a big post presence that require double team, and the shooters are open. It seems, I hear that she beat Jason Terry of the Dallas Mavericks in a three-point shooting contest. Sounds like a good shooter to me.
Well, I mean, it's not like Whitney Hand has to run the team, as a freshman. All she got to do is make shots. So you can either shoot or you can't. So and Sherry's moved Ashley more out to high post, get her outside a little bit, alleviate the pressure in the middle. I think that was a good move. Certainly looks good for the Sooners so far.
Well, listen, this is the roundtable question, and we're going to talk loud. And there's a couple people at this table that know a little bit about loud. Bob Stoops.
Baldwin's not here.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
Bob Stoops lectured on loud Tuesday. He defined what is loud and what is not. And what is not, according to Bob, is the OU football crowd. It'd be interesting to see how that call-out plays on Saturday. But my question to you, what's the loudest place you've ever been for a sporting event, Barry?
I wasn't even, I didn't know the question was limited to sporting events. But it's a good thing because my answer is a sporting event. Our old pal and our former boss of all of us, Bob Colin, when he was sports editor in the 90s, sent me down to Noble, America, to Thunder Valley Raceway, the drag strip down there. And I have no idea what I was getting into. I was standing down on the drag strip rather than up in the booth when they had the jet fuel cars take off. And not only was it the loudest thing, not only was it ultimate noise, one of those deals where it's not just noisy, but you don't hear anything except constant noise, but you could feel the noise rumble through your heart. I mean, I sort of know what it's like when they hit those, the people in the emergency room pop you with those paddles. That's what it felt like. There's no way any indoor arena has ever been louder than the drag strip at Thunder Valley.
Okay, I've never been to the drag strip at Thunder Valley, or any drag strip for that matter, but I can't remember a specific time that Gallagher-Iba was the loudest, but I know that it's been up there. But I can remember one specific time when I was still in college at Kansas, and UCLA brought a defending national championship team to Fog Allen Fieldhouse. They led by, I believe, 15 or 18 points in the first half, and Kansas mounted a huge comeback. And in the midst of that comeback, it's sort of that inward shaking, noise where you can't talk to the person next to you. And that, I think, is probably the loudest sustained crowd noise I've ever been around. And I assume that it was probably not as loud as the jet fuel engines at Thunder Valley.
Did you have your face painted red or blue for that day?
You're funny.
Deep Purple concert at Folsom Field. That was loud.
Deep Purple?
Deep Purple.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, I'm shocked.
Smoke on the water, right?
Instantaneous. It was Big Country's half-court shot to tie Missouri at Gallagher. Boom, like that. But the loudest was just a few years ago when OU was number 1 at A&M, and it was becoming a reality that OU was going to lose. That was loud. That was as loud as I can remember anywhere.
That's all for the loudness from the press row. We'll see you next week. In the meantime, stay with all the best coverage anywhere on the Thunder, OU Sooners, Oklahoma State Cowboys, high schools, you name it, every day in the New Look Oklahoman and at newsok.com.